It's been just a few days since the orientation book's release, and we've already received a bombshell of information. The Smiling Critters toy line had a shocking revelation, and we finally know the player's identity. It's safe to say this book may hold the secret to solving Poppy Playtime, and you won't believe how it ends. Today, we're looking at even more pictures from the orientation book. This one is particularly interesting because it features one of the Smiling Critters we haven't seen too much of. Bobby Bearhug is one of the most requested critters outside of Catnap. The book details the progress of Experiment 1186, which is how Bobby Bearhug got their bigger body. The title reads, Subject: Bobby Bearhug, Smiling Critters Bigger Bodies Initiative. The experiment has some pretty interesting information. Let's take a look. 3 hours following awakening observations, her body continues to spasm, eyelids flutter, paws twitch. Subject doesn't seem to show any awareness of where she is. Could sensory functions be distorted or altogether absent? We speak to her, try to get her attention by making sounds, but she does not register our attempts. The Bigger Bodies experiment to create Bobby Bearhug doesn't seem to work as planned. She's unresponsive to the sounds happening around her. But why? The note continues. The auditory nerves in the ears directly communicate sound to the auditory cortex in the brain. It appears we may have failed in wiring the connective cords and might be forced to go back under the knife to fix this. A lack of response seems to indicate the necessity of this task. It's clear that our procedures still haven't corrected issues with vocals either. Her mouth moves as if to speak, but nothing is said. We'll need to correct these processes with subsequent subjects if we're to potentially have these toys interact with our children. There's a lot to unpack here. First, this confirms that the Bigger Bodies initiative was indeed intended to create toys that were meant to interact with children. As we know, this goal wasn't accomplished, because most of the dolls ended up with violent tendencies. Let's keep reading the experiment notes. Several hours after awakening, she tried to stand and walk to the other side of the cell, but couldn't keep her balance. She looks to be searching for help, continuing to spasm. She's trying to scream, but she has no voice. She's silent. I'm not sure if she knows she's not making any sound. As this is one of the earlier experiments for the Smiling Critters, it's not shocking that the results are not as intended. Bobby Bearhug is not able to use her voice, and it seems like she's unaware of this fact. What's interesting is that both Dog Day and Catnap, experiments that came after Bobby, can speak very clearly. So the experiments must have improved greatly afterwards. In a way, Bobby Bearhug was the stepping stone for the other Smiling Critters. Conclusions. Work will need to be done to perfect the bigger body formula we began with Boxy. Each iteration improves on the former. However, if we're to meet the goals of Dr. Sawyer and produce bigger body subjects that we can integrate into a factory setting, then more work will need to be done. As we see later on, Catnap and other toys like Miss Delight are used to help run sections of Playcare, so eventually the experiments do have the desired effects. However, the book continues. As it stands, Bobby will require further experimentation. If we're to create Subject 1188 according to schematics, then each of the Smiling Critters will prove a good testing ground for ironing out these issues. This part is referencing Catnap's creation specifically, which is pretty interesting. Why put this information in the orientation book? Well, we think there's a high chance that Bobby Bearhug will show up in Chapter 4 with a repaired voice box. Remember, her voice works fine in the cardboard cutout version of herself. In fact, there's a high chance that she's being held captive, and the player would be able to free her. And who knows, she might even be our ally. Now let's get to the biggest reveal ever for Poppy Playtime. This revelation was actually included right at the end of the book, and you might have missed it. Images showcasing PW's work schedule actually hint at the player's identity. Let's pick apart a few important dates. January 11th, rescheduled Christmas party. January 23rd, 1994 sales figures announced. January 24th, meeting to decide who to blame and or fire for 1994 sales figures. This tells us that in January, sales for toys did not go so well, which could be why the experiments began to amp up. This was Playtime's attempt to create something new and revolutionary for the market. It also shows us how careless the staff at Playtime is, as they wanted to use scapegoats to explain bad sales figures. February 1st, new orphans arrive at Playcare. Been told to go and say hello to them. Don't want to. Will pretend to be sick. February 16th, safety seminar. Cancelled due to fire in seminar room. February 21st, new orphan aptitude test evaluation. February 26th, show new intern around experiment records, which to archive and which to destroy. PW doesn't want to visit the orphanage to meet the new orphans. I can only assume this is because they know what will become of the orphans in the experiments, so it's probably best not to get attached. It's also important to note that only some of the experiment records are being kept, which shows that Playtime Co does indeed have things to hide. March 6th, scheduled labs for experiment 1457. This number is crossed out. Can never remember these damn numbers. March 9th, inspection day at the park. March 13th, meeting with lawyers to discuss latest lawsuits. March 15th, meeting with lawyers to discuss injuries sustained by lawyer during their previous visit. March 30th, discuss plans for 10th anniversary Kissy Missy campaign, possibly of personal appearance, telling them this is absolutely impossible. In March, we find out that there are so many experiments happening that not even the biologist on the job can keep track. In 1991, Kissy Missy's bigger body form was created. We know from a previous schedule page that this 10th anniversary in question takes place in 1994, meaning that Playtime was thinking of having this bigger body version of Kissy come out to the public. With the results of the violent experiments so far, this would have been a terrible idea. April 6th, interview with local police. Don't forget Kickback Bunny. April 13th, team debrief. April 17th, deadline to report to lawsuits. Have been told to deny everything. We know that many of you have had a similar question in mind. Why haven't the police done anything about Playtime Co? With all of these experiments happening? Well, we can see now that the police were paid off, and Playtime Co staff is instructed to deny everything. May 1st, safety seminar. Cancel due to outbreak of toxic gas in seminar room. May 15th, surgery. Remember to bring change of clothes after what happened last time. May 16th, booked full day in Porta Lounge. May 26th, data entry with Dr. Sawyer. Both safety seminars that were scheduled ended up being cancelled. This shows Playtime's absolute lack of care for the safety of their staff and experiments. While it is vague what happened in surgery the last time PW had to perform it, it must have been traumatic or stressful enough to need a whole day of relaxation. June 9th, demonstration for toy store buyers looking ahead to Christmas. Very high security. June 23rd, meeting to discuss concerns from all other staff. And finally, June 28th, it's your birthday. This might seem like an innocent note left by PW, but June 28th is actually a really important date, and some of you might know why. If we assume that the information in the guidebook is true, then we can deduce the identity of the player. The player and the owner of the guidebook share a birthday. In Poppy Playtime Chapter 2, the Bunzo Bunny cutout guesses the player's birthday. He says, "I know when your birthday is, June 28th, followed by a giggle. If Bunzo Bunny had guessed correctly, that means the player is actually PW. And from what we've read so far from this orientation book, PW is as innocent as we thought. He is very aware of the experiments happening to the orphans. He plays a big part in conducting them as well. We can only assume that he's coming back to the factory after the hour of joy due to his own guilt." We have a few more dates on PW's agenda. July 3rd, construction review of new holding cells. July 7th, evaluation of labs. July 12th, company away day, cancelled. July 18th, meeting about changes to Playcare schedule. July 31st, safety seminar, cancelled due to deeply unsettling noises in seminar room. On July 3rd, there was a construction review for a new area. This could be where Dog Day would eventually end up, had it been completed, or it could possibly be a new area to explore in Chapter 4. August 3rd, quitting, have been persuaded to stay. August 8th, new Playcare schedule comes in. PW wanted to quit on August 3rd, which is another reason we think he might be returning to the factory out of guilt. It does seem like PW didn't fully agree with the way things were happening and didn't like working at Playtime. The last scheduled activity was on August 8th, 1995, which is the same day as the Hour of Joy. The next few schedule pages after these, leading into 1995, are completely empty. What could this mean for Chapter 4 if the player is actually someone who helped create Catnap, Dog Day, and so many others? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Is the player actually PW? Or did Bunzo just get a lucky guess? Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more Poppy Playtime content.